Hello, and welcome to Sound Off with System One. I'm your host, Krista Kornchuk, and I'm here today with our recruiting experts to speak with you about mastering your personal brand. Before we get started, here are a few words about System One. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life science, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 9,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. As you're tuning in today, please join us in the comments. Our marketing team will be monitoring them. Let us know where you're joining from and what industry you work in. And if you have any questions relevant to today's topic, please drop them in there as well. And we'll try to answer as many of those questions as possible. Next, I'm going to have our experts introduce themselves. Morgan, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Morgan Bossy. I'm the brand manager at Jolay, which is a life sciences staffing firm. I've been here for 2 years and I'm based in Chicago.
Hello, I'm Brooke. I'm the social media marketing specialist with System One. I've been here for almost a year. You may have seen my silly little videos come across your feed, and I work out of the Pittsburgh office.
I'm Krista. I'll be your host today. I'm the content communications manager. I oversee content for System One. And without further ado, we're going to get started with our topic. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will try to answer them. Our first question is, what is the biggest misconception about building a personal brand? Morgan, we'll start with you.
Yep. So I think one common misconception is that personal branding is only just about self-promoting yourself and creating that whole persona online. But I definitely think it's much more than that. It's about being authentic, sharing your expertise, offering value for your audience. So it's not just about the numbers or followers or gaining a certain number of connections, but it's about building trust, creating conversations through your own content.
Yeah, I think a misconception is that your personal brand is just like one tangible thing, and that it's once it's set, nothing can change it. And that's not true, and we'll get into like more later, but your personal brand is just you and all the skills, attributes, values, and experiences that make you who you are. And you can build that brand via like websites and social media platforms, but it's not one singular tangible thing. It can be changed.
Absolutely. And I think going off of what you said, Brooke, it doesn't have to be this big project. It doesn't even necessarily have to be extremely polished at first. Like Morgan said, as long as you're being authentic and sharing your expertise and really sharing that story, that is a part of your personal brand. So, don't worry about having it be perfect. Just start to build it, and over time, it will really become developed. What are some practical first steps someone can make to begin crafting their personal brand? Brooke, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think a great first step is to make a portfolio for yourself. If you're just starting out in your job search, start a folder with anything and everything you're proud of, like class projects, homework, literally anything you've worked on that you're proud of. Just start putting it in there. And even if you're a seasoned professional, it's never too late to start, and you probably have more projects that you're proud of. So I think just starting a portfolio is a great first step.
Yeah, those are great ideas. For me, I would just start by identifying your unique strengths and topics that you're able to speak on. So let's just say you're a recruiter, you should be able to speak on topics about updating your resume, doing interview tips or job searching tips, because those are the consistent topics that you can speak on, and then your target audience will gain value from. So another tip, if you think you ran out of content, you can always repurpose those previous topics and add on to them, because people, like I said, consistency. So they like seeing that on your feed and they'll remember you.
That's a really good point. And I think it's important to note what makes you tick. It doesn't always have to be in the workplace. It can be in your personal life as well. I think it provides a really big sense of authenticity when you're discussing what makes you tick, especially if it's out of the workplace. So keep in mind, if your workplace isn't firing you up at the moment, talk about what makes you tick, and it could lead to further opportunities down the line. And can you share tips on maintaining a consistent personal brand across different social media platforms? Morgan, we'll start with you.
So I think this kind of depends on where your audience is on social media and then focus on creating the content there first. So if they're mainly on LinkedIn, I would just start posting there because you can always reuse your LinkedIn content for Facebook, Instagram, or other platforms as long as your messaging aligns across all the platforms. So overall, just being consistent helps build that recognition and that trust that we talked about with your audience. So they'll see that no matter which platform that they're on.
Yeah, I think that's perfect because I think consistency really comes from tone. Like, although my target audience differs on Instagram than LinkedIn, as long as I'm consistent in how I present myself, like using the same verbiage, the same color schemes, maybe certain emojis that like match my vibe. The important thing is that when I look at Instagram and LinkedIn, I can recognize it's the same person behind that account.
Absolutely. And I think also while you're making sure it's consistent, make sure that it's appropriate while you're representing yourself because across all platforms, even if it's not a professional platform, everything you do, everything you post is still a representation of yourself. So keep that in mind. We have a question from our audience. Jackie is asking, how do you measure the success of branding efforts? I've definitely seen both of you measure your success very well. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you say.
Yeah, so I think just kind of measuring you obviously engagement, so looking at likes, the shares, the comments, also your follower growth, you can do that as well. But I would just kind of track how people recognize what you're posting, looking at the comments, what conversations you're starting. So I think I would just start there. You can always go more in depth later, but I would start just on the engagement side.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Like, especially on LinkedIn, it gives you really great stats on all of your posts, and you can see really where you're connecting. You can see exactly who you're connecting with, and then like you can measure the success if that's who you thought you were going to reach, and the conversations that are starting are what you wanted to happen. And if not, then you reevaluate and try again in your next post.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. What's a common mistake people make when trying to build their personal brand and how can they avoid it? Brooke, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the main mistake is just misrepresenting yourself. Sometimes when we think of like, what's my brand, we can get too focused on how we want to be perceived and versus who we are. There's a quote, your personal brand is what others say when you're not in the room. So when you're solidifying your brand, just make sure it actually represents you.
Yeah, I think another common mistake is trying to appeal to everybody. So the digital space has billions of users on it. So I think being too broad in your content, it may not perform as well. It could come off as oversaturated. So I would just suggest jotting down topics that you're 100% comfortable speaking on, whether that's through past job experiences, any tips that you can share. So just focus on that area first. You can always do trial and error just to kind of see what's working for you. But I would just start by having that list and start writing and posting about that. Another tip is you can also see what's trending in your industry each week. So through blogs, newsletters, I recommend kind of just doing a quick search on that to see what types of information they're sharing. And then you can create posts from that too.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that quality is so much more important than quantity when creating your personal brand. I see a lot of people posting just to post and paying a lot more attention to the frequency. It's so much better to post, a couple times a week or even once a week, as long as it's authentic and if it really has meaning behind it, that's so much more valuable than posting every day. Our next question, how can someone reinvent their personal brand while transitioning careers or industries? Morgan, we'll start with you.
So I think for your personal brand, like I said before, it's about being authentic, being open with your audience. So people like when you tell a story. So instead of completely rebranding, I don't think you have to do like a complete 180, but I would just start by sharing content that's related to that new field or job you're interested in. So that will kind of help signal your shift. So An example, let's just say you're transitioning from a marketing to a tech job. I would start by following the main people in tech, engage with their content, gradually create posts that kind of reflect that. And then this can kind of help transition your content while also staying authentic with your previous audience too.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's really not a reinvention. It's just a matter of placing emphasis. So if you think like of your brand as your work portfolio or even your resume, you're just going to emphasize what's most relevant at that time. So another example, like if I'm switching less broad just from like marketing to public relations, for public relations, I'm just going to emphasize more like my writing skills, whereas in the marketing field, I'm going to emphasize more my digital skills.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to just share what you're learning. If you're taking a new course and you're, taking on new skill sets, that's part of the story in your reinvention. So don't hesitate to show people that you're taking classes, you're learning, and LinkedIn is really helpful with that too. On LinkedIn Learn, when you complete a course, you get a certificate and you can share that with your network. So there's no excuse to keep that a secret. And our next question, what role does networking play in developing a personal brand? Brooke, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really network properly until you understand your personal brand. So that's part of establishing your target audience, like we've been talking about. You don't know what realms to search in until you understand who you're looking for. And then on the other hand, if you have a really built out personal brand, like on social media, you'll attract the proper audience that you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. Networking is just huge because we know it helps build relationships, but it also expands your personal brand's visibility. So let's just say you're networking because you're looking for a job. So consistently updating your profile, becoming that industry expert, like we talked about, because people will help stand out to recruiters and companies, rather than pulling up a blank profile with not a lot of information about yourself and what you do. But then on the other side of it, if you're set in your job, you're currently not looking, networking can still be beneficial because you're having conversations with people who probably have similar roles as you. So this can help you grow in your role because they may recommend articles to read, videos to watch, or tools that they use in their role that maybe you haven't used or heard of before. So overall, I think it can be used for any path you're on in your career, and it definitely doesn't hurt to network.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Morgan, I was just going to say reach out to those you want to learn from. Super simple. You really don't know where it's going to lead you. And I mean, you're obviously gaining experience from it, of course. How can AI help you in creating your personal brand, especially with AI and digital trends on the rise? Morgan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think AI is a great tool to help with efficiency and creativity in your brand. So it can be used to help spark ideas if you're ever stuck and you need some help to get your post started, or it can be used for help with your caption, just making sure everything flows and reads correctly. But I do think, like we said earlier, authenticity is still that main factor. So just keeping in mind, people still want to see value through your experiences. So maintaining that personal touch and then using AI to help boost efficiency is kind of the right balance between the two.
Yeah, Morgan nailed it again. I'll just add like AI can really just help form your personal brand. Like you can ask ChatGPT or the AI of your choice, just give me a list of keywords for my industry. And then you just literally weave those words into all of your application materials over all your social platforms. And it can just make it so much easier. And I think it's important to get comfortable with AI because it can just be such a helpful tool for your future.
Definitely. I have to be honest. As a content creator, I feared AI. I was afraid it was going to take my job, but humans like to see content from humans. So don't be afraid of it. I am using it primarily to help me stay organized and help hold myself accountable because you need to be accountable in your workflow. You need to be accountable in creating your personal brand and staying with your network. It's a lot to keep track of. And now we have AI by our side. And can you share an example of how your personal brand has opened doors and created unexpected opportunities for you? Brooke, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so full transparency, this is my first job out of college. I've been developing my personal brand for a while, but I'm so lucky to be on such a supportive team that has allowed me to grow in this role. And we've been able to implement a lot of fun content that's been growing our pages and resulted in some higher engagements and consistent gain of followers. And just looking forward to growing with this team and solidifying my brand as I go.
Yeah, I think working in marketing, obviously, like we said, we spend a lot of time on our company page and focusing on growing that. But I started working more on my personal brand this year and made some goals. So just being consistent with my posting and networking with other marketing professionals on LinkedIn has been really helpful. So I think just being asked to participate in this, the Sound Off with System One, because it's such a great opportunity, that means they noticed that my profile and my posts are kind of coming up more frequently. So just getting the chance to offer tips and advice is a great way to put yourself out there. I also kind of want to end on this. Don't be afraid to post content, post what you enjoy talking about, and then create that consistent schedule that you can stick to, because that will make all the difference. And you never know what opportunities or people that you'll meet along the way.
Absolutely. Well said. We are out of time for today, but thank you to our panel and thank you to those who commented. Don't forget to follow System One on LinkedIn if you're not already, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see other Sound Off with System One episodes. There's a lot of great resources there for job seekers about networking, resumes, interviews, and more. And make sure you tune in to Sound Off with System One every first and third Friday at 2 p.m. for more job seeker topics. Our next Sound Off with System live stream will be Friday, November 1st at 2, and we'll be discussing optimizing your LinkedIn and social media. See you then.